And we've had a confluence of interesting things in and around not only zine swaps and collaborative ideas involving zines, but specifically banned book related content. And Banned Book Week is upon us in October 1st through the 7th. And there's some interesting correlations with ideas here. And so I thought, why don't we throw together a quick show and tell presentation? And I know it's short with short notice, so I don't know how much attendance we're going to have, but we will have a recording and people can reference it. And I think it's a good idea to just get together when we can. So I was glad we can organize this. So welcome to our next show and tell presentation. We're going to be centering our conversations on not only zine swaps in general, but the idea of the recent zine-related collaborations and their focus, one of which has been on banned books, which is coming up soon, where there's a National Banned Book Week, October 1st through the 7th. So we're going to talk about a few different types of things today, centered around Laurel Moorhead's collaborative initiatives that I've personally been involved with, as well as Nancer, who is with us today. So we have Jade Pugh has also been in that project, but I don't believe she was able to do her banned book, and because of that, she wanted to wait and not be part of tonight's zine presentation. But I wanted to really focus on the idea that part of the mission of NEBA is to create more opportunities for collaboration and expanding not only through New England, but across the United States, and just expanding this idea of our community of book artists that we groove on. And the more you get out there and get to see other artists, the more you understand how fulfilling and nurturing and wonderful the idea is of connecting with these other people. And it's beyond just issues of COVID and pandemic and things like that. It's much broader than that. And I really wanted to highlight Lori's work in trying to help connect us. So the backstory is as president and a very active member of the book arts community throughout the United States, but as president of San Diego Book Arts, she was
I was never even on the board. I was membership chair.
Okay, yes. Okay. My apologies.
No, that's okay.
You were one of the point people with Wish You Were Here.
I led Wish You Were Here.
Exactly. So, and I was part of the leadership and helping with all of that as well. So that's how we initially connected. And she quickly became a NEBA member and has been very involved in getting her little friend network involved with us. And I'm super excited to have met some of these other women that were part of Wish You Were Here, and not just meet them then, but continue to maintain relationships with them, which I think is super fulfilling. Not only is it nice to get your work in places outside of the New England area or Metro Boston, if for me, I live in the Metro Boston area. So basically what I wanted to do was I wanted Lori to tell us a little bit about, first, just give us a little bit of a whiff on the memoir zine-based project that we did prior to the most recurrent one, which is an zine exchange club that has monthly thematic ideas going on, of which this banned book progression is part of what we're talking about today. So I'm going to hand it off to Lori and let her tell you a little bit. Replace spotlight. And I just thought you could introduce the idea of what you think about all the zine collaborations and how you're feeling about it emotionally and your interpersonal feelings about it.
Yeah, sure. So I agree with Cristina. I think, this expansion, Zoom has given us this ability to really fully connect with people all the way across the country and the world. And I just loved what happened I actually ran 3 collaborative projects during the pandemic for San Diego Book Arts. And the first one was just a San Diego Book Arts. You had to be a member of San Diego Book Arts to participate. And it was just a simple, basically, because it was at the very, very beginning. April was when I launched it, April 2020. And we were all at home, making things because there was nothing else that we could do. And it was like, here, send them out, give them to people. So the idea was, you sent 3 books out, little books, and we made them small, to the world, and 3 others would come back to you. And so it was really simple and really easy. It was called Shelter in Place, book Collaborative Book Arts Exchange or something like that. Then the second one that I did was called the Traveling Book Project, the Traveling Book Collaborative. And that was the one of those ideas where you create a structure, have pages to it, you fill the page, you create a theme for the book, and then you send it out to, we had 6-person teams, you send it out to the next person, they fill their page, send it on to the next person, et cetera. Finally, it comes back to you and you've got a completed book. And that one, I said, what if we reach out to, and at that point it was Paperworks in Tucson, because we had overlapping members there, and also the Bay Area Book Arts group. There was some overlap and commonality, both being in California. And so those were my easy connections. And so we did it with 3 groups for that book and that project. And then the third one was The Wish You Were Here, where I thought, well, 3 worked great. Let's see if more works. So we had 7 organizations, Bay Area Book Artists and Tucson's Paperworks and San Diego, and then also Santa Fe. Puget Sound, the Northern Redwoods, which is Northern California, Southern Oregon.
Norbag, I love that.
Yeah, and NEBA, was that 7? I feel like I might be missing one, but I think that was 7.
Wasn't there from Chicago too? I think I got some.
There were people from Chicago, but so at the start of the pandemic, I, as someone who thought that they hated Zoom, because my only experience had been FaceTime, and I think that is the worst piece of technology ever going. And so I had said, absolutely not. I will never, ever do that. And then my niece, my great niece, who was at the time probably 5 or 6, she was 5. Really quickly, she got her mom to host a Zoom dance party. And just to be supportive of my little niece, I was like, okay, I'll do that. And I went, that wasn't horrible. And then I started, setting up in April of 2020 was San Diego Book Arts' first monthly meeting, because we used to have monthly meetings at a library. It was our first monthly meeting on Zoom. And then very quickly, members started saying, can I demo something? And so I was like, sure, great. And having these demos, and actually the very first Book Arts Exchange, the Shelter in Place one, got us 6 or 8 members across the country joined, because somehow in that short period of time, they learned about it and they joined San Diego Book Arts. And one of them is, there were a couple of members out of the Chicago area. And, we ended up with them all over the place, and including Susan Marsh, who was the NEBA member who contacted us and said, and then, I saw her email when she joined. She was like, I'm membership chair of NEBA. So when I thought about inviting other groups, I reached out to Susan.
It's a natural, yeah.
Do you want to do that? Because I had that connection. She was a member to us, and I truly didn't know you existed until then. And so that's basically how it grew. And then as things evolved, my efforts were appreciated very much by the membership of San Diego Book Arts and other organizations, but not appreciated by a couple of select board members. And so I ended up leaving the organization at the end of October in 2021 and stopped doing anything. And then in the summer of 2022, Jane Sprague, who had led us on, she's a retired writing instructor from like Long Beach State and some other schools. Anyway, she reached out to me and said, aren't we going to do any more collaboratives? And I was like, I no longer with the organization. I started to say that. And then I went, and because she said she had reached out to the organization and they hadn't responded to her. So I was like, I have all the tools. Would you want to be my partner? And she was like, cool. So she and I came up with a couple of launch startup ideas. And the first one was the box of surprises, where we each filled a little priority mail box with book art supplies and sent them out to somebody. And then there was a two-hour Zoom meeting where you had to take everything in that box and turn it into a book.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's really fun. I stole that idea from Yuka Petz, who taught it through, I think it was a Minnesota Book Arts. I had taken it twice with her. It was so much fun, but Yuka had produced all of the boxes. And so this time, you know, we were all producing a box and sending it to someone, and somebody else was sending a box to us. It was a blast. Anyway.
It produced some anxiety in some people, the idea that you had to complete it in such a hurry. But I found it very invigorating and a lot of fun. And I was thrilled to be part of that. Yeah, it worked out great.
Yeah, the first time I did it with Yuka, I totally froze for like 30 minutes at least. And it was only, I think, an hour in hers. I mean, I just like froze and could not figure out anything. And then I finally went, okay, I see it. I see what's happening here. And then started working. But anyway, but what Jane and I really had wanted to do was the memoir-based zine, because Jane Sprague and I both have a really deep love of memoir and memoir writing. And so, I wanted to get the other one going. The other one was easier to get going really fast, but the memoir-based zine, we knew that was going to require a bunch of, we had a whole bunch of workshops for it. Memoir writing, we had two with Jane led with giving you writing prompts, and one.
Those were fantastic, and I like the idea of the addition of that.
Yeah, and Denise Stevenson stepped in when Jane wasn't able to do it, on a workshop on editing what you've written, which was really helpful. And then we had zine structures, because as we now know, there's almost
a whole lot of structures,
but there's an absurdly large number that you can do, cuts and stuff, or no cuts, to get the same size zine. Anyway, so we did that. So we knew that was going to be more involved. So we had that be the second one. So we did it. And as that one was wrapping up, and I want to say, I stole from NEBA and Cristina the idea of having the sharing where people talked about their zine, because I had so much enjoyed attending NEBA's zine share last year and learning what was behind what we are actually seeing, and how much more there was, and how it built out on what the thing was, and how people decided what to do and all that. So I had sharing meetings, and out of those sharing meetings, what I kept hearing over and over again was, we have to keep this going.
There was an obvious connection between the people happening because of the extra time we were Zooming. It wasn't just purely about getting the zine from people in the mail, which was lovely too, but the connections were building because we were discussing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was memoir based. So we were really learning about each other.
People were seriously sharing. It was wonderful.
Yeah. So from that, I put out a survey. What do you want? How do you want to do this? Because it's one thing to say, let's continue this. My personal opinion is let's keep writing memoir-based scenes, because I could spend the rest of my life writing memoir-based scenes and I would be thrilled. But it turns out other people have other interests.
Yeah.
Understand it, but okay. So, I put out and said, what are ideas? And then what do you want this to look like? First of all, do you want it to be monthly? Do you want it, all that? And then we got ideas of themes. And so then I collected the themes and sent out a survey. Which ones would you love to do? Would you maybe want to do? Would you really don't want to do? And from that, figured out which were, to start out, the 12 most popular. And then I used this spinning wheel like a raffle thing that I found online. I saw somebody else use it. I saw somebody use it in a conference. They were raffling off prizes, and it's really simple and it's a free app. And so I put all the themes in there, and then we spun the wheel and said, okay, these are the 6. We've set the themes for 6 months. These are the 6 we're going to do. And then during that meeting where we settled on the 6th, then the people attending the meeting decided how we were going to lay out those 6 and, which month we were going to do them on. And so the first one was the banned book theme, because we don't think that we knew that I didn't know that the banned book week was October 1st, so we would have these completed in time for banned book week. That to me was a happy surprise when I stumbled onto these graphics on the American Library Association site. They have a whole site devoted to banned books and fighting them. And they had all these downloadable graphics. They were like, please use them. So I went, okay. So I took their graphics and just dropped them right into a zine. And that was, I'd actually had not thought, because of what's happening. My husband's going through cancer treatment right now. And because of what was happening, with that, I didn't think I had time to do one. So I had actually sent out something else.
That's actually next in our slideshow.
Okay.
I should put them in the other order, I guess.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So, but then I was like ruminating on banned books and how angry they make me. And I started digging for information and stumbled onto this ALA site. Mm-hmm. And went, oh, I can just do this really quickly. So I did. So I was able to, produce a zine in a matter of hours. But what I sent out, because while I was my husband spent a week in the hospital before he got completely diagnosed, because we didn't know why he couldn't eat. But during that time, I realized, they were seeing this very weak, debilitated old man who was not able to speak very well. And I was like, the caregivers, the nurses, the doctors, everyone needs to know who he is. And 3.5 years ago, I had made this little zine that was it was a Valentine for our family, just the story of our family. And I had sent it out. So I thought, I just went home and printed up a batch. And, while I was sitting in the hospital with him, I was folding and cutting them and handing them out to anybody that walked in the room. Here, you need to know, you need to have an idea of who he actually is. He is not this man laying there in the bed. He is somebody else. And he's vibrant and all that. So it's really interesting to hand those out. I mean, grumpy doctors, nurses, whatever. I would give them to them and they would just like like I'm remembering Nancer saying that getting the zines in her mailbox made her squeal, and she's not a squealer. These grumpy old men were squealing with joy about this little book that I had made. Anyway, so I then, slightly modified it with putting in the zine exchange on the back page and sent it out saying, I don't have time to do anything. So here's what's happening for me right now. And then just on the banned book theme, it was interesting because one of the members had sent me an email and said, there's this, the whole premise of banned books is don't tell someone's story. And it made me suddenly remember that, as you can tell from the book, I was a single mother because I got divorced from my older daughter's father very quickly after she was born. And a friend of mine was saying to me when she was, a year old or so, said, oh, it's a good thing that you have this mommy and baby group that you found, because my mommy and baby group wouldn't tolerate a divorced woman in it, a divorced mother in it. And this was like in 1990. And I remember being offended, but I wasn't actually surprised. And I thought, this is the kind of thing. Let's pretend that nobody has unsuccessful marriages, that it's always the cleavers. And let's not talk about the fact that sometimes, women end up raising children on their own and then creating a new family with someone else, that kind of a thing. It hasn't quite gotten there yet, but I'm not convinced that we're far off with the way that they're, saying you can't tell this story, you can't tell that story. So anyway, that's how I feel like this does, in a loose way, connect with banned books. But anyway, it wasn't my intention. It was just like, here's the zine I'm doing now. Here you go.
You always add this little teeny extra slip that kind of has like a little commentary. That's kind of nice.
It's, I always feel like I have something I have to tell the group outside of the zine. And I didn't do it intentionally. I mean, I did it this time, and then I went, oh God, here I am doing it again. So the next one, I did it again.
You did it on this one too.
Yep, I know, because there was something, and I don't even remember what I said, except that it was somehow there was something that was important to me that I couldn't fit into, that didn't seem like it was part of the zine. And yeah.
Liz, I can just go forward to that little piece on this. Oh, does it not have one? This one doesn't have one.
That's why. It's because I included the little free library zine. That's the reason I felt I needed to have some extra explanation. Because
I really like this particular aesthetic that you have in this zine. I think it's lovely. The repeating house shape, and it's just really lovely. Yeah.
Well, and this is another, I've been doing a lot of zines, taking things that I've made that are actually, books in some completely different format and turning them into zines. And this is an example of it.
Yeah.
This is a poem about why we needed to shelter in place, to wear masks. It wasn't even talking about wearing masks, as it was written in like March, I think, of 2020, when we really didn't even have masks. But it was just about, caring for others by making simple sacrifices. And I loved it. It was written by somebody else, and to me, it was so eloquent and so well said, and expressed all the feelings that I had, including all the frustration and anger at people who were complaining because they had to be mildly inconvenienced. And so there's that one. But then in the meeting, leading up to that poetry one, a conversation came up and I talked about my little free library, and people were asking about that, and about, I mentioned this is actually the very first zine I ever made, was about the little free library that my husband made for me and that we have in the front of our house. And so I was talking about it.
I feel like it's connected. The notion of a little free library is connected to the collaborative nature of these zine swaps and zining in general, and the kind of like proselytizing of your zine content that we're doing, you know, having these little houses that you can stuff these zines into and like be kamikaze, like go around your neighborhood and add zines to the other zine libraries that you made. Yeah, right. I think it's wonderful.
Sometimes when I'm traveling, I will have a stash of this little book with me and stick it into little free libraries that I see when I'm, you know, someplace else. Most of the time I forget to do that, but sometimes I do it. So yeah, it was because I included this that didn't, you know, this one is the reason I had the second note. Cristina, I don't think I'm going to include a note every month.
Okay, I just thought it was interesting how many notes there are.
Yeah. Somebody else sent a note with theirs. Kathy Dannerbeck just sent us also 2 zines and sent a note explaining why.
Yeah. It's like, you know, you have a hard time shoving all your thoughts into these 8 little pages, or 16 if you double it, you know. It is hard to keep it all in there, but I have kind of feel like with Jane Sprague's writing memoir workshop that somehow teasing back that desire to give too much makes people experience it more universally. It puts less like understanding on it, and makes people be able to put their own thoughts on it differently. So sometimes I resist the urge to want to, this is why, you know, to explain it.
Well, and again, my little notes were explaining why I was sending this thing that wasn't fitting the theme. That's what I was doing. I wasn't really annotating the zine itself. I was explaining why it's in the envelope. But so this is that little zine that was just an extra for the month. Are we going to see other people's zines?
Yeah.
Okay. Because so far we've only seen 3 of mine.
I know. Yeah, we're going.
And only one of those related to banned books. So
Nancer's up next.
Yay. Let's let Nancer talk about hers. Yeah.
I'm going to stop the share for a quick second and just spotlight her. And
okay, you start. I can report at least on the banned book project. So Patsy Monk, who's a member of the banned book, a member of the new round of collaborative zine exchanges that Lori's putting together, is from Florida. And so she had proposed doing, we have a different talk each time, as Lori explained. And so she had proposed banned books. And meanwhile, I had done a presentation for our town school committee on why they should not get involved in book challenges once it had gone through the library's protocol and the superintendent. And they had unanimously adopted my reasoning, which, you know, I was a lawyer, so I put it together as kind of a abusive discretion standard and got them off the hook and said that, you know, if they had to spend all their school committee time reading all these challenged books, they'd never get on to things that they really actually have the expertise to do, like building a new school. So they were happy about that. So anyway, so when Patsy said she was withdrawing it, I said, oh no, this is like really an important issue. And it's not just Florida, it's everywhere, because I had, in the course of doing the research for the presentation I was doing, I had gone on to realize that American Pen, which is a big writers association, and that American Library Association had been tracking challenged and banned books across the country, and that the number of books that had been challenged had gone up by, like, I don't know, 1,000% in the last 3 years or so. Huge numbers. It's doubling like every 6 months. for a while. And then meanwhile, I was also contacted by some Moms Rising, which is a sort of a group of mothers across the country that watch various different social issues. And someone there told me that that there was sort of a playbook that had been distributed across the country by, like 10 people, I suppose in Florida and Texas. I don't know exactly where it started from. But anyway, it's the same playbook, and it gets shipped all across the country to anybody who's willing to challenge books. And so that's why the increase, and I read somewhere, I don't know if this is absolutely true, but it's something like this, that 80% of all of the challenged books in Florida are by 9 people. So you don't have to be a member of that community. You don't have to have children. You don't have to have children in the school. You just challenge a book, and you don't even, some of the books are crazy. Like they're challenging Amanda Gorman's book, a children's book, which is a revision of her inauguration poem. And the person who challenged it thought that it was written by Oprah Winfrey and hadn't read it. So like there's no content at all to some of these challenges. At any rate, anytime there's no content and no facts and it involves books, it's very easy for me to get passionate about it. So I said to Patsy, don't give up. And then we started emailing Lori, and it ended up being the first book the first topic that was selected. And so meanwhile, I had started contacting some libraries in the area and bookstores in my area in Massachusetts, because Massachusetts is like oddly like number 8th or something on the list of the number of challenges. So I was both alarmed and surprised by that. And so anyway, so everybody seemed okay. So what I did then was when we selected the topic, I sent around the list from the American Library Association of all the books. And for those of you who aren't familiar with this topic, it covers a huge range of absolutely ridiculous challenges and bans. Many of them are award-winning, like Beloved by Toni Morrison, Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, Diary of Anne Frank, Brave New World. And then, especially now more regularly or more viciously are LGBTQ related books, and books about racism or critical theory, or books, the biography of Roberto Clemente, who is I think he played shortstop in Baltimore when I lived in Baltimore as a 10-year-old. I mean, what on earth that could be challenged for, I can't even imagine, but that was challenged. I mean, basically because it's about an African-American who broke into sports. And this, and on the Charlotte's Web has been challenged, and, just like crazy stuff.
Well, wait a minute. I get Charlotte's Web because it's about a spider.
Yeah, that's kind of right. I mean, I thought, well, maybe in Charlotte's Web is, where's Pa going with that axe? That sounds pretty bad. But it was really, the reason it was challenged and banned was because you had human beings talking to animals, and that was kind of like a sign of satanic ritual.
Whoa!
And there was one of the graphic novels, which is really about the Holocaust, but it's called Mouse. It was banned because the animals were not wearing clothes. I don't know.
Oh, I'm so glad you told us those details. That's really.
I mean, some of them are just like completely wild. One of them, which is banned now often, which is like really sad in my mind, is And Tango Makes Three, which is this story. It's a children's book with beautiful illustrations written about these 2 penguins at the Central Park Zoo. And there was another baby penguin that was hatched, and I guess it lost its mother, or its mother wasn't taking care of it or something. And so they gave it to the 2 male penguins, who raised this baby penguin called Tango. And there's no male to male sexuality going on. They're raising an egg. Anyway, so that's been taken. And at any rate, it did inform me as to the breadth and depth of the absurdity of some of it. So we had a wonderful presentation where where people had very different. Some people had been librarians before, and they had dealt with the book banning issue themselves. Some people picked a particular book. Some people were very humorous and sort of gave their reasons for why they thought books were banned. Some people did kind of a political, a historical view of book banning. I wish I had them all here because they were so beautiful. Maybe Lori has them, but
I have some photos coming up of some of the other people's work.
Yeah, so I gave them I didn't give them permanently, but I lent them to the library because my library was going to do, at least for a while, they were going to do an exhibition for Book Banning Week and have a bunch of the books that had been banned. You can see that's mine. So a couple of them are Animal Farm, Color Purple. And then inside, if you spotlight me again. Oh, okay. Oh, so you have that. All right. Well, I can just go through mine. So I did 2 books. One, I wanted to do that they were really easy to read and engaging. And so it didn't have a lot of stuff. So one was called How to Write a Banned Book. And the other one was called How to Unban a Book. So if you go back, Cristina, so this one is How to Write a Banned Book. And I looked at, 20 or 30 banned books. It's amazing how many I had read, many of which were required in high school for me. But at any rate, so then I tried to figure out, okay, so what are the commonalities of them? And so that was how I thematically put together How to Write a Banned Book. So the next page was, item 1, if you're going to write a banned book, is think of a prejudice or a hurt unfairly experienced. And so each page has a book that's banned that illustrates this. Now, the one on page 1 is actually the most banned book, I think, in the country right now. It's The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, and it won the National Book Award in the first time that an Indigenous person, Indigenous author has won the National Book Award. And it's so challenged right now. And of course, it's a coming of age story. So of course it has alcohol and it has some drugs and it has, some sexuality, but it's not pornographic. And it just breaks my heart that an Indigenous person in our country finally wins the National Book Award and that book becomes a target. So the next one is also about an Indigenous person and a Hispanic person who have a relationship called Out of Darkness. And it also has won an award, although I can't remember off the top of my head what the book is. But anyway, so number 2 is think of a prejudice or hurt unfairly experienced by more than one person. So it's often a group, but sometimes it's just, more than one person. And that's how that's the common thing. And then page 3 is, it's a hurt that needs to be acknowledged and understood. So obviously that's true of transgender and LGBTQ plus people, as well as, obviously race, ethnicity, immigrant status, etc. And then, so it needs to be understood and acknowledged by the whole population, not just obviously those people, not just the member of the minority or the member of the non-dominant group. And it's a hurt that takes place more than once. So usually it's not obviously just a single accident. It's something where there's repeated behavior. And that's why obviously the prejudice forms and the hurt continues on. And then it becomes something that's harder to remedy because it's inculcated within a society. Not enough people know about the hurt or those harmed by it. So oftentimes the people who are affected by it are invisibilized. And then the final thing to do to write a banned book is write the story down. Keep reading and telling it. Someone's life depends on it and you. And so these are some To Kill a Mockingbird. I can't even, I don't know where that was banned, but apparently it was banned quite often. So you have Our Bodies Ourselves, and the new version has also been banned. Maya Angelou, the book with the smoke coming out, is also takes place in Alaska, and it's by some friends with multiple ethnicities. Malcolm X, Beloved by Toni Morrison, which also, I believe, won the National Book Award, and she's won the Nobel Prize, and Wounded Knee. And so I wanted at the end of this, How to Write a Banned Book, is to put a positive slant on it. In other words, the importance of writing the story and keep writing and telling it, even though obviously some people have displeasure at it, and the importance of that. And then for more information, I put two very well-respected organizations. And then if you opened it up, it would have a whole list. Oh, there you are. Okay, thank you, Cristina. You've done it all. So then I put a list so that when people opened it up, they could see just how many books, this is like a fraction of them, but how many books that are contemporary are being banned, and what a wide range they involve. It's Perfectly Normal is a book about sexuality for middle schoolers, and shows people, it's cartoons, but it talks about people with disabilities or different races.
I like the use of the colors on the fonts. In addition to
the reason I did that was because if I just had black, it would all be, it would all kind of run together. And so
it runs into the idea of rainbow, which is used a lot in diversity ideas. So it kind of reinforces things on different levels, which is nice.
Right. That there's all different colors and all different ways of seeing it. And to kind of stand out. So that was one. And then the other one had the same inside, How to Unban a Book. And so the first one was, put you in the perspective of kind of a reader. And this is in the perspective, sort of, I suppose, of an activist, or you're aggravated that books are banned. And it was the same concept, really. A list of things to do in the order. They're very simple. Get a list of the banned books, pick 2 or 3 you'd like to unban. And then, if you don't know what they are, what I was trying to do is make it to some degree self-contained, but also give people resources outside of the zine. So if they said, well, I don't know what's been banned, you can just open it up and you see the same list as in the other book. Read the book if you haven't already read it. Identify 3 reasons why I think the book is valuable. So, obviously that piece is important, that you know what the content is and you know why you think someone should be able to read it. And then again, I keep adding, so each of them has different examples. Like The Crucible was certainly one that both I read in high school and my son read in high school. And 1984, Leaves of Grass, The Giver, my son had to read, Sid Arthur, I had to read. So a lot of these are required books in a lot of places. So has the book won awards? And the reason I asked that question is a lot of them have. And so people don't realize that these are books that have been recognized by the literary community or by librarians or by illustrators or whatever, but they've been recognized as really the top of that particular year for their field. And, they're not just these kind of like underground type books or books that nobody will care about if they're banned. And so in this particular one also, to kind of highlight that, I more or less kept picking books that had those little, those little stickers on them that say that they won awards. So the next page you can't see what the stickers are, but there they are. Then write to the author or email or contact them on their website. And in some ways I wanted people to be brave enough, students or other people, to contact writers, tell them you're working to protect their book, ask them why they wrote the book. So in other words, that was just trying to get a little bit.
I think it would be great to send them a copy of your zine.
Yeah, definitely. I could do that too. And then,
idea, yeah.
so yeah, well, definitely, probably after October, let's say. But anyway,
Yeah.
Right. And then the next one is send a letter or make. So of course, not all the authors that have been challenged are still alive. So some of them might not be able to do that, but send a letter or make a zine or send an email to your school librarians or your town librarians and tell them why you want the book, why it's important to protect that book. And then I said, tell them you'll wait to contact a newspaper for a week so they can respond.
I love that.
I'm going to make an issue about it, which unfortunately it didn't go over so well in my library. But as a lawyer, that's what we always do, which is you say to somebody, unless I hear otherwise, I assume you agree. Put the burden back on them. Anyway, and send a copy. And then I wanted to also both recognize, so then I said, so send a copy to Penn America or every library who's keeping track of these things, because I wanted to broaden the reach. And then on the last page, I also wanted people to be positive and not just in a fighting mode. So the last page says, if you discover that your librarians are already fighting book challenges or your book has been unbanned already, send a thank you note. Email is fine and a card is even better. So in other words, again, that it kind of continues the sort of relational conversation. And then I said, celebrate, then pick another banned book and start over again. So
rinse and repeat.
One and done.
Yeah.
So that was the concept. And then, it was very easy to, obviously the great thing about zines is it's very easy to duplicate them. And in the next town over in Natick, Massachusetts, they have a very large, 30-foot wall, and they have a giant chalkboard. The wall is, it's like a New England wall. I mean, it's not like an original stone wall that's very uneven, but it's not even hip high, and it goes along the front of the library and onto the parking lot. So it's probably 30 feet long at least, and they have a giant chalkboard attached to it, and it says something like freedom to read, or freedom is, and only it's freedom is spelled F-R and then F and then R-E-A-D, like read, O-M, and right. It's about Banned Book Week. And so on the chalkboard, they have painted in, I have read, and then you put what banned book you have read during September and October on this chalkboard. And
is it filling up?
What?
Is it filling? Are people filling it in?
Well, they did a news. I haven't been over there yet. I'm going to go over there as soon as I'm out of quarantine.
I'm going to go check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. But there was a WBZ, which is a local Boston news channel, did a kind of newspaper, it did an in-print clip online, and they also then did an interview with them. So they gave them a little bit of publicity. So I also sent that to our library, trying to give them, more cover that they really weren't going out on a limb. So they're not too, at the moment, they're kind of like, well, I'm in sort of a fight with them because I have a very good relationship with them. They're always trying to get me on their board of trustees, but they're saying, well, it's political, blah, blah, blah. And that just really ticked me off, because I said, banning books isn't political except by the people who want to take a book off the shelf. There's nothing political about librarians buying books for children and for, their own, they know their own constituents. So I just don't feel like this should be a controversial issue. And if libraries can't protect books, then who can? So, and also they have cover already from the American Library Association, but we do have some wonderful bookstores in our town and the next town too, who are also doing lots and lots of bookstores, are doing exhibits or, displays for banned books. And so I am kind of determined, and it doesn't, I think it can last past October, but I am determined, because zines are so easily replicated, and everybody in our group has given me, well, I don't know everybody, but certainly I've gotten 15 people who said, and there's only 20 in the group, who said, yes, feel free to duplicate it. If you need more than 3 or 4 copies, let me know and I'll send them to you. To broaden the reach as much as possible. And I love the idea of putting them also in these little free libraries that, you know, people can just take. First of all, people love free things. And second of all, it's simple enough and it's small enough that oftentimes they will read it. And it creates a lot of education in a small package. And there's a lot of variety in the group, in the 20 that we did. So I don't know how you feel, Lori, but I think that it was a tremendously successful launch of our project.
I think so. Yeah.
People got very
100%.
excited about it.
Yeah. I made a little box, and I put it into my little free library, you know, my little band one, and then also how to make a zine, that one that I didn't create, that Merkworks did. And yeah, I've only seen things leave the little box. I haven't seen anything enter.
Yeah, well, you gotta kind of be prepared for that reality.
That's fine. We'll see. I mean, the same thing with when I first set up the little free library, stuff went out, it didn't come back. And then it comes back in such volume that I have to go through and edit it and move it out.
The ebb and flow.
Yeah. So I'm not giving up. But yeah, I was hoping that there would be like instant response, but of course not. Anyway.
All right. Well, I'm going to show mine next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done, Nancer.
Nancer, I loved the educational component, and also Lori, I liked that idea of those downloadable PDFs that they had turning into a really nice zine for you.
Yeah, they're actually they're JPEGs.
Yeah, I'm going to be showing.
So, yeah, so you can
some of these links in a few minutes.
Play with them really easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nancer sent out this list of the 50 books, of most banned books, to the group of 20 of us to kind of just help us kickstart some ideas. And right away, me being a body image artist, pretty much so, I locked in on this one. The thing that I found the most interesting about it was the illustrated graphics of a bee and a bird having a conversation about how weird it was to be talking about body and sex and how icky and uncomfortable they were. And so I kind of felt like the cartoon illustrations were going to be where I headed. It just resonated with me, and I did a black and white zine and then added yellow with a Sharpie. So just a little marker work on them. I gave a little bit of the backstory on like why it's been banned and why I think it's actually really great. And then I started to change some of the dialogue that the bird and the bee were having. So banded, so what? Clearly my bands are yellow and black. Or maybe they want us to start a rock and roll band. No, it's banned. So in the book, these little guys are kind of tucked in and around the scientific information and the basic kind of explanations of the birds and the bees and all the facts of life. They get into some areas that they need to get into, but they do it in a very classy sort of way. They showed the bodies with a whole lot of variation and diversity and sensitivity to ageism and handicaps and all these different things. So I kind of really felt like the idea that they're blamed for cartoon nudity predominantly is why they're banned. I thought it was kind of funny. So there was this one little section where he's like, oh my goodness, this is the bee down at the bottom. And he's, oh, let me take a look. And then I pulled illustrations of different bodies and created this little like herd of bodies. And then towards the end of the book, this was a little panel that I kind of thought summed up everything about the point of a book like this is to say that, yes, it's normal to feel icky and weird and uncomfortable. That's what's normal. And I don't really understand why you wouldn't be able to understand that by looking at this book. So I just thought it was kind of a charming, wonderful little story. And I don't understand why it's banned. It doesn't make sense to me. So this is my little band Bird and Bee. Here are some of the other ones that we got. So I think there was a couple of people that our exchange club has a rule that if you're not thrilled with your theme, you could do an open theme and just, skip the theme. I think a couple of people skipped our theme, but for the most part, we got I think we got 17 or 18. Some people sent more than one. You can see the
Cristina,
variation. Yeah.
I do know that the upper left that mentions Adorable Band Book and Tango Makes Three, that one was actually in response to my book about my family.
Okay.
Because Linda Bussel's husband he's actually been going through very involved health issues for quite a few years.
Yeah.
And this summer, a lot of stuff happened, and she wrote and told me. But so that actual zine is, and she said that getting my zine about my family and the explanation of why I was sending it felt that she had the freedom to do that. And I feel like there was one other person that told me something similar to that, and I'm drawing a blank on who it was.
Yeah.
But that's kind of why that one was unrelated. There was another
but it
one.
does at least reference banned books in it.
She did.
It's just Rick in the hospital, breathe. Yeah. It's kind of like a mix of her thoughts going on.
Exactly. I think that's exactly what it was. Is what I'm involved in. Just as I was saying, here's what I'm involved in loosely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You can't really see because of the way the lights are in here. It's all blasted. But she's scanned her San Diego Health visitor stamp. When you go in, I guess they make you print out like a visitor logo to put on your shirt. And she's got some of it looks like test results or something going on here, potentially, in addition to this other content. I was really impressed by the personalities of everybody and how much they came out and the different kind of look of things. This is the little sticker, a little handmade. Look at this little girl sticker here on the back of this envelope.
Yeah, I love that.
Little tuck-ins, little additions, little collage bits.
Yeah.
These are not just pure black and white zines like NEBA's zine swap is every summer. Some of them are definitely taken to another level. Let me go one more forward here. Like the foreground here with the wax seal. Maria, oh my goodness, this one had a handmade envelope with embossing, and you went into another envelope, and then it was like a little teeny miniature book hiding inside this zine. It was like super uber customized. Others were a little lower tech, so everybody's were so different. I just really enjoyed. Let me go backwards. Really enjoyed the variety. I don't think I have all of them laid out here, but I have a lot of them. I mean, it would take too long to go page by page through all of them. But for 1 month of an ongoing project, I think we've kicked some ass, ladies. I think we've had a really good interaction with this. I think sharing this knowledge with other people. This is a little plug for the fact that the Boston Art Book Fair is coming up soon, and I'm teaching a workshop that you can have for free and come and make a food for thought silly zine with me with my crazy plethora of weirdness that I'm going to be bringing that's food related in any way, shape, and form for people to make zines out of. It's going to be like a zine making hour at the Boston Cyclorama. But the picture that you're looking at is the second month of this zine exchange group, which was poetry inspired zines. And everybody knows I groove on my mushrooms. So I found a Sylvia Plath poem about mushrooms that is about actually women's rights and speaking out for anyone that's voice is silenced or they feel like they're being forced to displace themselves and migrate to an area or mindset that they're not as happy with. It's interesting because it's called mushrooms, but the word mushroom is never used in the entire poem. But anyway, yeah, so this, I did a black and white zine, and then I just started coloring them and playing around with them a little bit. So I'm already getting my zines in. Hopefully you two have also gotten some already for the poetry inspired.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's an invigorating connection. And I love the fact that we're all over the place and that we keep having these monthly interactions over Zoom where people can talk about their zines and talk about their ideas for the following month and just sit with each other a little bit. They're a fascinating group of women, actually. I'm really excited about the connections we've made. Those of you who haven't noticed, I've been talking a lot about our zine swap. The 4th year of our zine swap, we now have a little exhibition starting on October the 1st at the library at Coolidge Corner in Brookline. And it's a glass case, and we're going to have some programming. In addition to a reception, we're going to have a zine workshop free offered to, I don't know if they're going to say teens, tweens, and teens, or if they're going to make it all ages. But we're talking about doing that as well. Yeah. Awesome. So that's kind of my main image show. Here is the website. It's called bandbookweeks.org. It's the official Banned Book Week place that you can get those PDFs that Lori used in her zine, which would be a fun thing to have. Lots of good information, lots of other links to other locations that have good content. The Boston Public Library at Copley is having what they are calling a read-in. Okay, so they're going to have all the books that they can find on the banned book lists for you to read and sit and talk in a group. And it's on Saturday, September the 30th from 10 to noon at the Copley. That's the main branch of the Boston Public Library at Copley. That gives you a little more information right on the Boston Public Library website. They are also expanding actively their zine collections throughout the Metro Boston area. You can see on their information on the Boston Public Library zine collection. Here are the different locations. They're telling you that they don't really have, they have something like a little under, it says 300 plus unique items, 945 zines that are at these different branches. So that's telling me that they don't have very many zines, because if that many zines are split up amongst this many branches, they're hurting. So this is the potential idea. We have grant money that is more than sufficient for us to take a big Staples run and make a whole lot of Xeroxes of our zines. We could be contributing to each of these branches a zine set. You know what I mean? I mean, this would be an outreach potential that NEBA could do that would not be that expensive. It would take time to fold them all up and do the connections with the people and the emailing and the yada yada. But this is something that I think would be a nice idea. We would be featured prominently because they don't have anything. If we're giving it to them, they're going to be thrilled. Our 4 swaps represent a pretty sizable number of zines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you add in some of these tangential ones, like if I decided to add in all like Virginian and, you know, all my weird ones that I have and, you know, yeah. Anyway, so there's potential there to not only do outreach, but to make an impact and a promotional impact. It's a good idea, I think. So I want us to think on that idea as well. And they're blogging about zines actively right now, which means that we could do a small amount of writing with some of the photos that I've already taken. We could probably feed them some content and get them to blog about us. Again, it's a good thing to do. It's happy for them, and it's a promotional way to get us out there more. We're trying to promote, we're trying to encourage younger audience members, and we're trying to get this stuff moving. So why not try to do some outreach in these areas? It just seems like the Boston Public Library would be a huge resource for us to connect more with. Yeah, so it's all good. We're all good. I'm going to kick out and have some dinner. We went a little longer than I thought, but I just wanted us to get together, even though it wasn't really an official show and tell exactly. It's sort of, but not really. And I just love the collaborative spirit that we've got going with this set of women, and I want us to do things like of this nature too. And that's going to be coming in the October newsletter. I'm going to send out a call for ideas for collaboration and see if we can't do something in addition to the Posted with Love that we're going to the Valentine's Day thing. We'll do that probably every year because people seem to like it a lot. I mean, what's not to love about getting a bunch of big
Valentine's
kisses
Cards
in the mail?
about love. What's not to love about cards
not to
about love?
A big old Valentine's Day kiss. All right, ladies, it was great to spend time with everyone. Go forth. If you feel like throwing a zine my way, make a zine. Be part of our swap.
Waylon's coming.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye.